Hi, I'm Jason Reed with Inner Edge Music, and I'm very excited to be here with Adam and Jimmy from Swervedriver. Guys, thank you so much for your time. We're here at the Teragram Ballroom, and this is actually the 16th show on your current tour. So bringing it back here to Los Angeles for all the hardcore fans here.
Yeah, and it's also nice playing this venue because I guess, we're sort of used to the Bowery venues in New York, and they've branched out a bit, and I guess this is the new Bowery venue, named for Margaret in reverse, which is a very nice touch. But yes, we're excited to be here.
It feels like we're in LA proper. You see a lot of interesting folks out there on the streets, and it is the Bowery in many respects, I guess.
Well, I haven't been out on the street today, but in past visits, I've seen a lot of wacky people here. That's for sure.
Wacky. Yeah, there we go. That's a apt description for Angelinos. Well, guys, so the tour's been really successful. I've heard a lot of buzz, a lot of great reviews from the tour, but I'm actually really excited to talk to you about your new album. You guys are in the process of doing a pledge music campaign to crowdfund an entirely new album with the title To Be Determined. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, yeah, we thought we'd do this time, this way, I guess it's a way of just sort of guaranteeing that there's people out there, and there's an element of trust involved, I suppose, because to pledge, you have to, have faith that we're going to put out an awesome record.
That's true.
And, and it's just sort of flips everything around, really. It kind of cuts out the old middleman of the record label giving you the advance, and then you go and record the album, and then you don't know what happens after that point, but at least we know we're actually not sort of playing into a vacuum,
Exactly.
People are there.
And a lot less hands in the till, both financially but also creatively, right? A lot of times, Creation Records, I think you've talked a lot about your guys' stint on there and stuff, but sometimes with record labels, there's some pressure to, whether it's album cover or little decisions there, and so it allows you a lot of freedom as an artist, right?
We also had pretty much freedom, to be honest. Creation never really made too many creative decisions. There would be decisions about which tracks, a track running order or whatever, or which tracks should be singles, I suppose. So, I suppose it's kind of more free with us,
A little bit more so. Well, I noticed you guys are really creative and really in touch with the fans on this in terms of wanting to connect with fans. And there's a lot of opportunities for folks to subsidize, if I may use that term, kind of the creative process, including, signed copies of a vinyl record when it comes out. There's even an opportunity to play Scrabble online with Adam Franklin. I wanted to know, should we be worried if we want to play you online?
You should be concerned, really, yeah. Okay. I used to play the Lexulus, but it has to be the UK version. I can't play the US version. The UK version has more words, because I think the UK language kind of welcomes, Indian words and French words become more sort of assimilated,
Okay. Right.
So it's really annoying if somebody challenges me to a game and then I can't play, I don't know, there's some word, it's like, wait a minute, that's normally there, and it's like, it's the US version again,
Yeah. There's fewer U's and things like that in some of the words.
Yeah, it's true. I guess you get like words like honour and stuff like that, obviously the colour and honour and all that kind of stuff. But Lexulus does also have ridiculous words. Tsar is allowed, and I'm like, what the hell's Tsar? But apparently Tsar is like for pizza, I think. Like, does anybody ever call pizza Tsar?
There's Little Caesars here, but I'm not sure if there's a Tsar pizza yet.
Oh yeah, and like Zepp is allowed. A Zepp is apparently a big American sandwich, one of those buns over there, probably. I've never heard of that.
There's a big pile of bread over in the corner. I think the guys have a little bit of a gluten obsession, actually.
I don't know why there's so much bread. I don't think we requested the bread.
Back to the wordsmithing. And you've always been in your lyrics too. I always get a sense that you're quite a wordsmith. You're very articulate and very literate in many respects.
I like words. Yeah. I think rock and roll lyrics, they don't have to mean anything. They just sort of sound good. But if there is a kind of meaning as well, then that's all well and good. T-Rex lyrics are always about, he'd sing about hubcap, diamond star halo or whatever. Yeah. Doesn't really mean anything, but kind of sounds good.
And you've talked in other interviews back in the day about kind of the obsession with certain aspects of Americana for a while, automobile aesthetics, and that it's similar to almost the T-Rex sort of shout out.
Yeah. I think, because Mark Bolan was sort of taking it from Chuck Berry or something, and we used to sing about, gas station. After years of touring, now you can kind of say, because if you're on tour with Americans, it's like, we need to get some petrol, guys. They're like, what? They're like, we need to go to the gas station. All right. So.
It blows our minds, no doubt. Well, Jimmy, over to you, man. Kind of skipped ahead a little bit, but on this current tour, it's a pretty cool thing for fans. You guys are playing both Mezcal Head and Rays in their entirety in chronological order, correct? I mean, basically, you're not mixing it up or trying to be tricky with it.
Discuss mixing it up, but no, we're doing it in order as they came out.
All right.
I mean, bands do that, don't they? They do an album, but I don't think they do two. I don't know if anybody's done. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I've never seen anybody do two before. It seemed to me like, let's make it double the value.
Yeah,
really.
no, I mean, fans get so much out there, and I not to dash your dreams on the rocks, Jimmy. I apologize, but what I would say is it's a relatively rare thing. We have Ocean Blue was a band that we interviewed, and they did, I think, their first two albums back to back. But admittedly, sometimes those are shorter albums too. And if you're a prog rock band and you do you do two full albums, that's like a 5-hour gig. So
the first album is quite short. I mean, it's kind of like raw power in that respect, really. It's like 40, maybe less than 40 minutes long. So we play that and we take a breather. And we come back and have a couple of beers and stuff. I've been eating a few vegetables and stuff in the break.
All right, and some bread too. We're mixing it up. Oh, no.
The bread just sits there. Okay. And we give it to the homeless in the morning. That's
true. Yeah.
But then when they do the second album, and it feels right. I mean, it feels like everybody, when those albums came out on A&M Records in the States and they had that support, a lot of people went out and bought them back then,
Absolutely.
And so I figured that this is going to make sense for a lot of people from that generation who always wanted to see maybe all the songs, or we never did all the songs before. There's one song that we've never played before this tour.
I was going to ask you about that because with other bands that have played full albums, sometimes there's a deep cut on that album that isn't a song that is particularly popular, or it's technically difficult, or it requires extra equipment. So is that the case for this song?
It's kind of forced our hand. We have to do them. We can't. We're not going to do that one. We're going to do track 1, 2, 3. We're not going to do 4 because we don't like it. Because that's what it's all. On all the other tours, it's always like we don't want to do that song. But a lot of people maybe want to hear it, and they never got the chance. Now they know that 100% chance is going to happen.
Well, this interview will sadly air after the tour is over tonight. So I'm wondering, we're not spoiling anything by maybe mentioning what that one song was that.
You find it everywhere, which is obviously everybody knows who's seen us before that we're going to be playing that song tonight, and we will have played it, and we've never played it as a band until we played it in Chicago in rehearsals 2.5 weeks ago.
Wow.
And that's quite a eye-opening moment for us, really, or ear-opening.
Quite a thing.
Yes, good fun.
Well, Jimmy, you just talked about something I think that's an issue that's near and dear to viewers of Inner Edge Music and all of us as fans or musicians, is the album format. You mentioned T-Rex and coming up in the 70s, I know in other interviews, and getting away from singles culture a little bit and getting into the full LP format. And I assume for you too, Jimmy, in terms of your influences and stuff, that the concept of an album is an artistic statement, something to be taken in ideally in a certain intended sequence of song order, et cetera, et cetera. Is that kind of an important concept for you as a musician?
Well, it is. I think it is, because that's what we all grew up on. And I don't know really, since the CDs came out. I was used to vinyl records when I was a kid. Since CDs came out, even since back then, I don't really know what songs are called now, really. And people say, what's that song by Nirvana or whatever? I know the riff. I don't know the words, but I know the song.
And you might know the song that came right before it and right after, and there's a meaning to that, right?
It's so important, absolutely. And I really like the way on some albums that a band can put quite a poor song, and it makes the next song seem much better. The Rolling Stones have done that, I've discussed it with people many times. I won't mention any songs, but sometimes they put out one of their worst performances. Well, I think about that.
Adam just said he's putting Jimmy on the spot. Go ahead and name one, Jimmy.
I've spoken to our manager John about a few times, which is Black and Blue album, which is not one of the Rolling Stones' greatest albums, But the first song I think is pretty poor. Hot Stuff is kind of like a reggae sort of weak sort of reggae sort of riff, and
felt like a B-side.
And that's how the album starts. But then it goes into the next track, which is a really strong sort of Keith Richards riff. And it makes that Keith Richards riff seem so much better because the song before has been kind of poor.
Sometimes when the bar is low to begin with, and then you as an artist, never have your first album be like the pinnacle artistic statement of your life, because it's hard to sort of outdo that, right?
I mean, most commercially successful bands, the big sort of stadium bands, will put their single on first, and the album will taper off. but they're just the big money making bands who are told their management will not have any other way, you know. But I mean, I think you've got your own choice. I mean, it's great what you can do with it, and it sticks in your mind like that, you know. Just the fade outs and the flipping over sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
And it's very important. Yeah.
Very cool, guys. Well, guys, this is like a really strange question, and it's one I've wanted to ask, and it might just be based out of sheer ignorance. And I don't even know if it's a question, but more of just an observation and wanting to get your feelings on it. But me and other people that have dyslexic tendencies, I've found myself a couple times when talking about Swervedriver and talking, you know, saying, "Oh man, '90s shoegazing, so great," you know, and talking about Ride and the genre. Sometimes I'll accidentally say Screwdriver instead of Swervedriver. And for folks that are a little loose of the tongue, kind of a somewhat understandable subconscious thing. And I've heard other fans too, when I've mentioned Swervedriver, say, "Wait, isn't that one white nationalist band, da-da-da?" So obviously it isn't. Obviously there's no connection, but being a band that did come out like early 80s, I wondered if there was ever, if like Swervedriver was
we had never heard of Screwdriver, you know.
Oh, okay.
And I wonder sometimes if people have, you know, mistaken us for them or something. Like, I sort of think at this point you'd be pretty stupid to make the error, but I mean...
That's what somebody did the other day, actually. Someone on Twitter did say, I thought you were talking about Screwdriver. It does still happen, but I mean, that guy from Screwdriver died like 15 years ago. I mean, Screwdriver, long gone. I mean, I don't know how many people followed that band, but it can't have been very many.
Not very many. We don't want to give more attention.
But Screwdriver is an implement used around the house, isn't it? So, you know, it's quite easy to make that mistake, just on that basis, really, rather than getting mixed with some band that doesn't exist and didn't matter anyway.
Totally.
I'd rather be mistaken for an implement around the house than that band as well, you know. So.
Molly Hatchet. Now I'm trying to think of another band. Anyways, I brought it up just because I've heard it sort of innocently or kind of ignorantly referenced when talking about band names, and one of my missions as a music journalist is to, you know, definitely make sure people don't little letters in a word can make a big difference.
Well, maybe people mistook the band Lush for Rush as well. You know, that could have happened. I suppose.
They were like, Mickey's no Giddy Lee, and I want my money back after seeing that. Anyways, Lush, fabulous band, really cool to see them. Adam, relating to kind of that segue, the last few years we love the shoegazing genre. We've interviewed Mark Gardner right before he announced the Ride reunion at Coachella, et cetera, and really are very happy to see so many bands, you know, of that sort of era coming back together, touring, having fans show a lot of love. For you, as a band of that era, was it inspiring?
You know, it's weird when you talk about genres because, you know, we don't see it that way, really. You know, I mean, I'm really happy for Slowdive because I think they took the brunt of the whole sort of shoegazing thing, and now they had that album of electronic covers of their songs put up by the Berlin label More Music, and then their reputation sort of spread over the years, and now they're coming back and headlining everywhere. Yeah. And that's fantastic, you know. The whole thing about shoegazing is like, oh, is Swervedriver a shoegaze band, you know? It's like we're kind of somewhere between that and the more kind of grungier sort of guitar, you know, Sonic Youth Dinosaur Jr. thing or something. Yeah. Or, you know, it maybe even going into sort of bits of sort of psych rock, I suppose, if you're going to carry on using genres, you know.
Yeah, definitely. But, and of course that term was pejorative to begin with, and so, but just coming from a place of love, and you know, just so glad to see you guys out here. I saw you 2 years ago. It was one of the most noteworthy shows I saw in 2015 for the at the time the new I Wasn't Born to Lose You album, one of my favorites of that year.
Was that in Santa Barbara?
It was Santa Barbara, California.
It's the venue that looks like a sort of like a late night TV host, you know, the show thing.
David Letterman backdrop, That was one of the best shows of the year, and hearing those new songs off the album. Again, for folks that don't have that album, 2015's I Wasn't Born to Lose You, definitely check it out. I love it. And with the new album coming out, I mean, are there things that fans can expect that are, you know, departures from the Swervedriver sound? Any new exploratory stuff that you can?
Possibly, but again, it's difficult to sort of like nail down where you're going because you don't sort of consciously think about things, you know. I mean, we were really happy with that album because in the end we had 10 songs that seemed to touch on all those elements. There was the kind of, you know, the last song's kind of shoegazy, goes off into this swirly thing, you know. But there's an earlier song that's kind of stoner rock almost, and you know, poppier songs, more experimental things, and it just kind of worked out as like, you know, as being fully rounded, and we were really happy with that, you know. So, and it, you know, and it sounded like Swervedriver, which is important, but it still kind of sounded like it was going off somewhere else.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said, that it was great when it came out because there's a familiarity to it, but also something else, something else going on there.
It was surprisingly, it was modern, but it had a real resonance that didn't feel overproduced or over, So I love it.
And I think we didn't feel like we could go off on one and do something completely out there,
No hip hop album coming out with Swervedriver 2017. Yeah.
Maybe Molly Hatchet covers or something. I actually don't know who Molly Hatchet are really, but
I just know the album covers. So iconic. It's like Herb Albert, Whipped Cream and Other Delights. That album cover, classic. Jimmy, another question for you, man. Adam just mentioned some other artists that. In my opinion, great artists from different eras that are out there still getting love from fans. When you think back through the years of experiences of touring or collaborating, being on stage with other musical artists, are there any sort of memories that stand out for you?
Well, yeah. I mean, we played. One of the bands you mentioned was Valentine's, of course. We played with them many times, actually, going back to 1986, or maybe earlier than that, 85, maybe. We had a different name. We were at a different band name, but then we came across them later on over the years and ended up being on the same label. But there was one time the first time we played with them, which is a story that Adam tells quite a lot. Wow. We were playing a squat in Hackney in East London, and we had no experience of any equipment. We were very much novices at the time, and we just tuned our guitars by ear, But it turns out they had a guitar tuner, which we'd never seen before. We didn't know how to use them, so we borrowed guitar tuner. I'm not sure it was me or Paul, the bass player, who did it first, but it was me. Okay, so I got my E string mixed up with the A, so I tuned up the E to an A, the A to a D, the D to a G. I don't know what happened with the G at this point, because it couldn't have been a C. I don't know, but anyway, the whole thing was tuned up 5 semitones high. So once I got my guitar in tune, everybody else, the rest of the band tunes up to me. Oh, wow. because this guitar's tuned, I'll use the Valentine's tuner. So everybody tuned up to this. So everyone was tuned to my guitar, which was.
And is that responsible for the Swervedriver sound? In essence.
Yeah. I mean, as if that wasn't stupid enough, him doing that, we were then stupid enough to tune to his guitar. I think we've been doing like Liquid Speed or something on the way down or something. There's some reason for it. But anyway, so the bass player Paul then busts a string, and he said, "Shit, I bust a string. What should I do?" And I said, "Well, I think the girl from Melbourne, Deb, I think her name's Deb Gooch, she's over there, go and borrow her." So we went over and Deb said, "Yeah, borrow my bass." So then he tunes up, he gets her bass, do 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 do.
Deb's thinking, "Oh my God, what's he doing? What's he doing? Did he snap another string? I don't know."
The weird thing is that if you play a record at 40, if you play an album at 33 RPM album at 45, I think it is those 5 semitones higher. So we then played a cover of Search and Destroy by the Stooges, but it was like if you played it, the album at 45.
Okay.
Ding, ding, bling, 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 bling. And my brother had to sing Rambling Rose, the MC5 song, which has a really high, love is like a rambling, and he couldn't hit the note because it was way up there. So,
Does anybody have a recording of that?
There is a recording of it, yeah.
We'll have
Paddy has one, I think, yeah.
Well, maybe for the next album on Pledge Music, that could be for $1 million. It'll be like Wu-Tang Clan's album. For $2 million, you can get the one copy of the. Yes, very cool. All right. Well, Adam, thanks again for your time, man. I really appreciate talking about all these exciting developments with you guys. A similar question that I asked Jimmy, a little different though. When you think back on your just all the accomplishments musically that you've done in the industry, what would you have to say is probably the high point, the memory that just you think was really, and not to say there are not other pinnacles to be reached, but looking back so far.
Well, it's quite simple, really. It's like last night's show in San Francisco, which was fantastic. A club called Bimbo's, which is like their tagline is San Francisco's favourite nightclub since 1931. You walk around, it seemed kind of like Twin Peaks. It's just like
red colours.
And you walk around, there's like a little telephone booth. There's no phone in there anymore, of course, but I was just thinking about how many conversations have been had in that phone booth since 1931.
How many hearts have been broken and proposals and
people sort of saying, "Why I oughta," because that's what they used to say back in the day, right? There's like a goldfish bowl behind the bar. It's just a beautiful venue, fantastic crowd. I think we sold the place out, and it was just blinding. So LA's got a lot to live up to.
Yeah, definitely.
One night later.
Well, to me, that is indicative of your optimistic outlook, because you any of us are lucky to say that yesterday was the high point of our career. So it sounds like you are living the dream, Adam.
Yeah.
Or this is all a dream. It's all Twin Peaks, maybe. I don't know. But and Jimmy, again, thank also to you, man. I wish congratulate you on all your accomplishments. And want to remind folks out there again, the new album. Check out Swervedriver's Pledge Music page. A lot of opportunities to get involved and support good music to come. So, guys, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks. Man.